Thank you for being here. I'm your host of the evening, Tina Friml. I'm a blonde woman in her 30s, very attractive, wearing a beautiful, stunning blazer and heels. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our ASL interpreters for being with us today. Also, this session does have a live captioning available on the screen behind me. If you would like to follow the conversation on your personal device, please scan the QR code on the screen. I'm thrilled to be with you all tonight because disability inclusion is something that I care so personally about, and it's important to me, clearly. As someone who's witnessed the transformative power of inclusive practices, I can tell you with certainty, the work being done by the National Organization on Disability and you all being here, it truly matters. When we embrace abilities and perspectives from all employees, we aren't just creating a more inclusive workplace. We're building stronger, more dynamic communities marked by empathy and understanding. So, but before we get started, I just want to have more introduce who I am. So, okay, thank you. This is a little bit more my speed. So, I just wanted to say, it's such a relief performing comedy for you because I worked at the Comedy Cellar for a bunch of tourists, and they don't see this comedy, okay? I get distracted because they're looking at me the whole time like, okay, either she's having a stroke, I'm having a stroke. But either way, I'll just keep drinking. That's the thing. I know that I'm used to people looking at me being distracted. They're guessing. They're guessing what's happening. They don't know what's happening. They don't know what to say. That does not stop them, okay? They think of me the autistic or deaf, which is like naming two other Powerpuff Girls. Well, I have cerebral palsy, okay? According to WebMD. So I'm but that's the thing. So I actually love being a disabled comic. It really catches them off guard at the comedy clubs. You know, they come expecting just some other New York comic getting up there talking about New York comedy, you know, like some crazy thing that some character said to them on the subway on the way there. But the worst thing ever said to me on the New York subway was like a month ago. I get in the car, okay, right? Doors closed. It's me and him, okay? No pants, okay? And I look at him, right? He looks at me for like a long time, and he goes, "You good?" No. Oh, because I should have worn pants. But I mean, I feel being a disabled comic. I can never be a hack. You know, I can't do hack comedy. I always say to my embodied audience, like, nothing about this is relatable to you. Okay, yeah. No, that's the thing. They're not prepared to hear that. Fun fact, the disability community is the only minority that we will all join at some point in our life. So, somehow they do not laugh at that either. I don't just joke about disability on stage. Although I do joke a lot about it because, well, okay, I've been going to therapy about this. So the reason why I have so many jokes about being disabled is I'm not a very interesting person otherwise. I'm not, like, this is the most dramatic thing to ever happen to me, and that was day one. Again, nothing else. No, I'm a white liberal arts college educated girl from New England. There's nothing compelling about that. Taylor Swift took it off. Okay? There's nothing for us. So, you know what? I try to dive into other topics. You know what? I talk about dating, dating apps. Although, I get destroyed on those apps. And I'm not used to that. Like, I'm a Vermont 9. Okay? Thank you, guys. I'm wondering what I am in Times Square, but no, I get destroyed on those apps. It's true. It's not my fault. I'll read all the bios of all these Tinder guys. Turns out a lot of guys are open-minded. Like, down for whatever. I used to think down for whatever was a green light. I couldn't find out I don't so much need a guy who's down for whatever, but more a guy who's up for something very particular. But, since moving to New York, though, from Vermont, I get a lot of people asking how I'm holding up with all the New York comedy crowds, but make no mistake, the most unhinged comedy crowd I've ever performed for remains to be Vermont. I'll tell you what. So, about 10 years ago, I get booked for an event a lot like this, put on by the Vermont government. So, I go there, do my thing, I crush. But I get on stage, the woman right at the front of the stage, she rises from her seat, beeline towards me in the back. She says, "Oh my God, I love you." So funny. I said, "Thank you." She said, "But I gotta say," she did not. "I gotta say, for the first half of your set, I was livid. I was furious because I thought you were faking it." I know, right? I worked so hard on this character. Okay, no, but how good would that joke be if I could somehow say that in like a normal voice? And anyway, so this is what this woman thought was happening. Okay, when we paint a picture, she thought that one day a comedian get a call to do a fundraiser for the Vermont government on disability rights. And I think to myself, oh yeah, they're gonna love this shit. Like, that's how I know I can never win. Like, I can make you all laugh, but there'll be one guy always in the back just thinking she's not committed to the bit. And you know, that happened, 10 years ago, right at the beginning of my career. And one thing bothered me that I never found out. I want to know, what was her exact moment? You know, like, what was the moment in my show that you realized? You know, what was the moment you recognized an authentic, right? Was it when I spit upon her? The second? Is that it? And then finally she's just sitting there like, oh. I love her. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. How about we get on with the show? I'll set down my precious